Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Welcome to the Pitcher Podcast, where the conversation is free flow, everything is on the house, Ian needs to take a shit, and all we ask for in return is for you not to give us 1-star reviews. I'm Cody.
And I'm Ian.
And today we thought it would be fun to talk about some of the pet peeves that the both of us have.
But before we get started, let's go to our culture corner. And this week we're going to be talking about movies. I know Cody and I have very similar recommendations, so I'm just going to come out with which movie we're going to recommend this week. So basically, we watched this movie a few days ago with Michael. Great movie, really funny. The title of this movie is called Brahms the Boy 2.
Yep.
What can you tell me about Brahms the Boy 2, Cody?
Oh man, I mean, what is there to say about it? It has a solid 9% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which is better than nothing.
Yeah. And so basically it's about a possessed doll, kind of like stereotypical movie plot. But we were getting lunch in the city the other day, and we were just really bored and decided to just go and watch it at one of the movie theaters near to us.
Because we wanted to watch another movie called The Bridge Curse, but then it wasn't really widely available in theaters.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we decided to watch this masterpiece.
Exactly. Rachel elected not to come with us. But yeah, it was fun. I guess the guys have...
Well, was it fun, Cody? Were you scared?
Never
Never
scared
ever held onto my arm in fear, covering your eyes. No?
So because of the like social distancing settings that are still in place throughout Hong Kong, you're only allowed to sit in movie theaters like 2 people, and then the next 2 chairs are blocked off, and then like another 2 people can sit there. So because we were going to the movie theater with 3 people, me, Ian, and Michael. And I get scared really easily in horror movies. We had to make Michael sit just by himself in the other seating, and I sat next to Ian, and then I moved up the armrest in between us halfway through the movie just so I could hold on to his arm more.
And hide behind me. Yeah. Like, it would be scenes where nothing is happening. She's probably just walking down the stairs. And Cody's like, oh shit. I'm like, Cody, nothing is happening right now.
At one point, I was like digging my nails into Ian's arm. And he was like, dude, like, stop. Just stop.
That hurts. That hurts.
But we have, I guess, just our friend group has kind of a tradition of like watching horror movies whenever we get together. Our friend Nathaniel used to host these sleepovers. And it was just a tradition where we would watch like one horror movie for every sleepover that we had. And the guys would always like search up what movie to watch, and I would always ask them to tell me what it is. And then I would go off by myself for 5 minutes and then read the Wikipedia plot synopsis of it before we watched the movie.
Not before. It's before, during, and after, Cody.
Actually, that's true. Just so I knew the entire plot of it, but I would still be like hiding behind Ian and everything. So yeah, that's our Culture Corner recommendation for movies this week. Brahms the Boy 2.
The reason why we chose it as well is because it wasn't even that scary. It wasn't scary at all for like me in particular. It was just so funny how bad of a movie it was. Like Michael will understand. Like the editing of the movie is absolutely abysmal. It was like an IB film project.
Yeah.
So
and just like the little boy carrying around the doll for most of the movie was just funny too.
The dialogue was so weird as well.
Yeah. The dialogue was...
So we took the piss out of that movie the entire time.
Yeah, and then I was still hiding behind you. But yeah, we also wanted to talk about just like a short story or two that happened this past week to Ian or me. And I think we're going to try to like build that into kind of our successive podcast episodes as well. So do you want to go first?
Wait, I didn't actually. That just went over my head. I didn't hear what you said.
Just like our weekly recap.
Recap.
Yeah.
So recently, I only just started driving like maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
Very safe driver, very responsible driver, as many would know. But recently, I encountered a series of problems. So I had a track day with Michael and Chris at Sai Kung, which is more in the countryside of Hong Kong. And then I didn't know where to park the car, and Michael was so insistent on me parking on the street. He was like, yeah, sure. I've like parked there plenty of times the past months. I'd park there all day. I wouldn't get a ticket.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, sure, I'll trust Mike. And then literally like we drove away to grab breakfast in another area. and then came back, and then I just saw like a piece of paper clipped under like the windshield wiper. And I was just like, oh my God, Michael. And Michael was like, I'll pay for half of it. I'll pay for half of it.
I'll pay for half of it.
I'm like, you should pay for all of it, because he kind of persuaded me to do it. And then the worst thing about it is it was 5 minutes before we actually got there.
Oh, really? Because it had the timestamp.
Yeah, it has the timestamp.
Okay.
It was literally 5 to 10 minutes before we actually arrived to the car, which kind of, it was quite the tease.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
What about you? We're not going to talk about any other incidents.
Okay. Yeah.
If there were incidents, which there weren't.
So I guess this week, just a funny story that happened was actually only 2 days ago. But we were going out for dinner just to celebrate a special occasion. And we were at this nice like Parisian steakhouse, and essentially how it works is after everyone's finished with dinner, there's this like huge big presentation of this dessert cart. And so there's this person who like comes out of the kitchen with this massive cart, like piled up with different desserts and pastries and stuff. And then he like rings this bell, and then he goes over to every single table and then shows like all 6 desserts and like takes out the plate with all of it and like presents it and everything. And it takes like at least a minute or two for this like to be done to every single table. And so there was like 5 of us at this table, and he kept showing it to us, and I was like the only one making eye contact with him just because I always want to make eye contact with someone who's speaking. But then because of that, it was just like him showing me all the desserts. And then Rachel was also at this dinner, and throughout dinner she had been talking about like the desserts and raving about she really wanted dessert. So we're like, okay, so at least like our table will get something. And then after this guy has finished talking to like essentially me, I'm like, Rachel, are you gonna get something? And she's like, no, I'm actually not gonna get
She was
anything.
so confident. She was like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, the dessert tray literally came over because of Rachel.
Yeah. And then this guy has just spent like a minute and a half showing us all of his desserts. And then he looks at me because I'm the one who's like made eye contact with him for this entire time. And then I just completely like crumble under pressure. And this was one of those moments, and I was just like, yeah, I'll get the lemon meringue, which is like the last one he showed to me.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, okay, great. And then he carts his dessert thing away. And then Ian knows me so well. Right after I said that, he's like, you don't have to get a dessert, right? And I was like, I don't know.
I was like, I knew you ordered under the pressure. Like you didn't actually have to order any dessert. He was like, oh, really?
And I don't even eat desserts. I don't like sugar a ton, so I try to stay away from sugar. So I like truly didn't even want this thing, but I'm just so bad under pressure, and I felt bad and everything. And so
because you were also anticipating like Rachel to say, I want that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But she didn't end up doing that.
And then so I was like, oh no. And then Ian's like you don't have to get it at all. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like try to go over and like cancel it or something. But he had already taken his cart to another table who had flagged him down, and so I had to literally get up,
walk across the
restaurant, and then wait for him to finish his dessert presentation to another table. And then I tapped him on the shoulder, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, but is it possible to cancel that order? And he's like, oh, you want to cancel it? And I was like, yes, please. I'm so sorry. He's like, oh, okay. So then I just went back, and I was humiliated. And Ian knows this about me, and my whole friend group knows this about me, but I just cringe so much in like awkward situations and stuff. And so for the rest of the dinner, which was like 15 minutes, I was just sweating and
you
like
were
not
sweating
talking.
so much. Yeah. You were so uncomfortable. It was so clear.
And so Ian looks over at me and like he's like, Cody, your forehead is sweating. And then Rachel keeps like tapping me, and she's like, Cody, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm cool. I just want to leave. So yeah, that was kind of a tragic moment.
It was pretty funny though. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So for today's topic, we're gonna be talking about pet peeves.
Uh-huh.
So Cody wants me to start off with my first thing. So I think my biggest pet peeve for the past few years, especially since in uni we've been living by ourselves, in co-living situations.
Uh-huh.
This is not targeted anyone. It's a very general pet peeve. But a big pet peeve of mine is cleanliness.
Yeah.
Like I would use my room as an example. In the UK, it's carpeted, which is very tragic because like I'm really allergic to like dust and dirt and stuff like that. So I make sure everything's clean. Everything's tidy, spotless. I'd vacuum my room like once every 2-3 days just to make sure it's not all dusty, because it accumulates a lot of dust in the UK as well, especially when it's really windy. And that's a pet peeve of mine. Like, I remember like a few of my friends who've come over to my like dorm or my room, they would notice that I would like vacuum anything that's like kind of dropped onto the floor, or maybe like there's a speck of dust, I'd like quickly wipe it off, even if we're just like engaged in like conversation or whatever. That's always like the thing that ticks me off the most. But also in co-living situations, people in the UK love this thing called soaking. I think it's not even just for the UK. I think it's global. This idea of like soaking pots and pans or dishes in water somehow helps reduce the amount of oil on the surface, which makes like no sense whatsoever. Well, I've seen some situations where they soak it from like breakfast time till dinner. And then I'll be like, maybe you want to give it a rinse, maybe give it a wash, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe I would. Or they just use they use soaking so much as an excuse just not to clean up straight away. And that grinds my gears.
Because when they soak it, like, have they just left it in the sink and stuff, so it's all this clutter in the sink, or where do they put it?
Around the sink.
Okay.
Occasionally in the sink.
Okay.
Like occasional like spoons or utensils in the sink. I get a bit like edgy about it. I'm just like, yo, come on, please. Shared space. Can we keep it clean? Farhan agrees with me. Farhan's also a very clean guy as well. Bryony as well. Okay, I don't want to break it down.
Digging yourself into a hole.
A big hole. But yeah, cleanliness is a big thing for me. Like I can't live in a dirty environment.
For sure.
Do you have any similar experiences?
I made a point to talk about this, but I think it's interesting because I lived for my last year of university in a smaller apartment. So it wasn't as big as your house and how many people lived there, but it was 4 of us, so me and 3 roommates. And for me, it was just like, I think it was about setting expectations and stuff at the beginning of the year, which we tried to do about cleanliness. But that was something I kind of wanted to ask you, because I noticed that when our year started out, it was really easy to like gloss over anything that like grinded each other's gears, specifically with like cleaning and stuff. So like if someone would leave like an extra bowl or an extra cup or something, like one of us would just like do it for the other person without saying anything. But then like as the year went on and you started,
you guys would actually do that?
Yeah.
That's really nice. That thought has never entered my mind.
Oh, really?
It's more of a please tell them to watch their stuff up.
So yeah, that was what I kind of wanted to ask you. Like, was there ever kind of a stage earlier on in your relationship with these people where you would just like let things slide or like pick up after them more? And then like, if so, like when did that like change, and how did that change?
I think the difference is probably like I've been living with a lot of the people I've lived in uni for like the whole duration of my uni experience, for 3 years. I think in the beginning, because we were kind of like unfamiliar with one another, we'd like pick up after ourselves and just try to maintain a really clean space, try to like prevent any like abrasions between other people. But as we get a bit more comfortable with each other, maybe a few bowls get left out, spoons were in the sink, and it becomes a bit of a mess. I think it's that comfort, like being comfortable with other people, and then your bad habits slightly start to leak out of it.
No, for sure. Did you ever have one of those cases where like no one claims the dishes too? Like there's like,
my god. Because essentially, oh my god, I'm digging myself a really big hole now because it's getting really specific in terms of these issues. But I live in a house of 9.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So including myself. So it's a really big house. A lot of people involved. We have like a group chat that helps organize everything. They'll always be like, oh, who left their bowl there? And then no one admits it. But then no one's willing to clean up after themselves or help them clean anyways. We're not that compassionate. Bar maybe Bryony. Bryony would always do it. But then we tell Bryony to like let people clean up after themselves and not do it all for them. But then they'll always be like, oh, who left their bowl out? Who left their bowl out? And it'll just be left for like half a day. And then someone will be like, oh, sorry, I forgot to clean my bowl. And I'm just like, it's not that hard to just quickly clean your bowl.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and I should stop talking about this.
I guess last question though is like, how would you or like what role did you play, I guess, with like asking people to take care of them, like clean up after themselves and like take care of the house and stuff? Would you be like kind of like passive aggressive, or would you just like straight up call it out and not feel awkward about that? Or like, yeah, how did you go about all of that?
A bit of both.
Okay.
A bit of both. I think I used to be a bit more passive aggressive. I'm like, knowing who left it out, I'll be come on. I'll put it on the group chat, like publicly shun them. Like someone left their bowl out, and it's clearly like a very unique bowl. And it's obviously one of the person's bowls. But then afterwards, like I would just see them leave it out, and I'll be like, can you please just quickly clean it or whatever, and then they'll just do it. And I think it's much easier that way if you just quickly call it out.
Oh, for sure.
But you're just afraid of like treading on toes early on. So you always do one of those messages in the group chat, one of those aggressive messages. And on that note, the idea of passive aggressiveness, I feel like it's very hypocritical of me to say that I'm also very like, I'm not very passive aggressive. Sometimes I have my stints of doing so. But one of my big pet peeves is people who are overly passive aggressive. And this person to my left happens to be an adopter of this personality type, but like not in a mean way. Like Cody does it in a very playful, like kind of a teasing way, which still grinds my gears. I'm just like, Cody, come on, please stop doing that. Like things would be like I'd say something, maybe something outlandish, and then Cody loves doing this thing where he like throws me under the bus, and he's like, wow, Ian, and then he just like rolls his eyes. I'm like, Cody, come on, you gotta get my back here. And then like I would say something, and then Cody's like, wow, and then he would like mumble something under his breath. And I'm like, Cody, I clearly heard that. He's like, I clearly heard that. He would just like mock me back. I'm just like, Cody, I don't have enough time for this childish shit.
I think since we've known each other for so long, I think with our friend group, we know exactly what like pushes each other's buttons and like grinds each other's gears. And for Ian, that's like me being passive aggressive towards him, especially in a group setting. And so whenever we're with like a larger friend group, I love just like rolling my eyes at Ian or like mocking things that he says, like meh.
Yeah, the wows. I hate the wows. Like wow, and then you roll your eyes.
So yeah, that's just something that I like to do. But I think it's more playful than actually.
Yeah, it's definitely more playful. Because if it was actual passive aggressiveness, like I doubt we'd be friends to this day.
Yeah. Another thing that's funny that reminded me of is just in passive aggressive, like when I'm being passive aggressive in a group setting, and then I feel like I'm slightly maybe taking it too far, and then Ian just like looks at me, and then I always have to end up like biting my tongue because I realize that Ian just has way too much dirt on me. I feel like there's a ton of those memes that I've seen where it's like where you realize that like the friend that you're roasting has like way too much dirt on you or something. And so that happens honestly like every other week or something whenever we're with our friends, especially like Michael, Rachel, Real, Chris, people like that. And then Ian just like shoots me a look, and then I'm like, oh, so Rachel, like tell me about your week or something.
I'll be like, oh, Cody, remember? And you're like, oh, wait, Rachel, remember? And he'll just instantly change the topic. Smart man.
Yeah.
What about you? What are your pet peeves?
Yeah, I guess this is kind of linked to it. But one of my biggest pet peeves, that's kind of a smaller thing, is like cutting people off, or I guess like me specifically getting cut off.
Oh, really?
And it's so funny because when Ian and I were talking about starting this podcast in the first place, we got coffee at this cafe and we're talking about it and planning it out, and we're like, we're going to really need to figure something out because Ian knows that my pet peeve is like getting cut off.
Yeah.
And Ian also, not like with any malicious intent or something, likes to like just be an engaged member of a conversation. And often that comes with like interjecting or like cutting me off. Yeah. And again, it's not like insidious or any way, but it just like grinds my gears. Are you being passive aggressive right now, Cody? No, not at all. I'm being full aggressive. But we were like, we're going to have to figure something out. But this reminds me of a lunch with you, Michael, Rachel, and me. I think it was just like last Wednesday. But I was telling a story, and it was essentially about like my family history or something, or like my dad's political ideologies and like how those came to be.
Something serious.
Yeah. Something like not completely joking, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then so I was just like, oh, so like I think what it ultimately comes down to is that he was like born in this one area, and then Rachel was like, oh, and then he moved there, or like it's like, oh no, but it's like the family upbringing, right? And I was like, no, I was like about to get to it, but like so
Wrongly finishing off your sentences.
And then it happened like 2 or 3 more times. And then I was like, oh, so it was like on my grandpa's side essentially. And they're like, oh, your mom's grandpa? And then I was like, no, like my paternal side.
Yeah.
And then I ended up just getting like a bit more heated every time this happened. And then essentially it just happened once more. And then I just like stopped talking. And they're like, wait, so Cody, like finish the story. And I was like, no, it's fine. And they're like, no, we really want to hear. We really want to hear. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, I don't want to talk about it. And then they're like, oh, come on, Cody. And I'm like, you keep cutting me off, so I'm just not even going to talk. And then the whole table got quiet, like, in that moment. And I was like, okay, yeah. So it was actually about that. And I just finished off the story. And we just moved on to the next thing.
My excuse is, I don't speak on the behalf of Rachel. I have, like, the memory of a goldfish. So once I have something that I want to say, I need to get it off my chest, or else I'd forget it.
Right.
That's why I sometimes, cut you off.
Yeah.
I would be like, Cody, I'll let you finish later, but I got to get this off my chest. And then I would say it. And then Cody would be like, what was I talking about?
Yeah.
And we just completely forget what you were talking about. But on that note, that's another pet peeve of mine. Cody loves doing this thing where, like, he gets really giddy. He would, like, laugh. And then he's about to tell you something. And then right before he tells you something, he just shuts up. And he's like, oh, actually, never mind. He would be like, oh, I got to tell you something. And I'd be so excited for it.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, actually, never mind. And then he'd, like, giggle a bit. I'm just like, and it's so hard because he knows that, presses my buttons as well. I'd be like, Cody, just say. He's like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And we play this back and forth game. And it happens way too often. I'm just like, Cody, no games, please. Just tell me what you got to say.
Yeah. I think it starts off with... that habit started off with me having like a really like juicy secret or something, or like some really like prime gossip that I heard, and then realizing at the last moment that like, oh, like I can't tell all of it, or like part of it I have to redact. So then I'm like, oh, actually no, like never mind. And then Ian's always like, Cody, no, you tell me now. You tell me now.
Once you started, you gotta finish. You gotta
sometimes
finish.
Sometimes I'm like, oh no, sorry, I forgot. Or it's like something like stupid on my phone or something. Yeah. And then he just sees through that. But then sometimes, again, it's just like me loving to push his buttons. So then I'll just like giggle about something. And then Ian would be like, what is it? And I'm like, not telling you.
Yeah. I hate that so much.
He like kicks me under the table or something like that.
Okay, your turn.
I guess just us going back and forth about things we hate.
About each other.
Okay, well, speaking of you, Ian, no. This isn't an Ian specific thing, but if my dad is listening, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Something that grinds my gears so much is when people have like food in their mouth and then they start talking. And so it's like, just like the cadence of the sound and like how you can tell there's like food in the mouth and like while the sound is coming out, that just like, it makes me feel so viscerally uncomfortable. And then I think it's also only when like specific people do it. Like my dad has done this like throughout my childhood, and I always like call him out for it and like have gotten like annoyed at him or like frustrated him about it. But then he always is like, but when like your mom does it, you don't even like bat an eye or anything. And it's actually true. Like when my mom talks with her mouth full, I like don't even notice it. Yeah. It's one, me not even noticing it, and then two, like I just don't mind the sound as much. So it's definitely tied to like certain people,
like how loud it is and how oblivious they are to how loud it is as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it definitely only comes out with like certain people. But that's just like something that I've grown up with pretty much.
But I feel like I'm used to it because like in Asian culture, like during dinners, everyone's like always talking.
Right.
It's never a like individual experience. Everyone's trying to talk, enjoy themselves, like share this meal together. So everyone's like eating and talking at the same time. And you're kind of used to it. As long as people aren't like spitting it out, like, just like making those really loud chewing noises and like opening their mouth like really wide as they start talking as well. But in the end of the day, it is kind of rude too. And then I do that to Cody sometimes because I know he hates that. So I make it a point to chew as loud as possible and talk in the same time.
Yeah, whenever Ian is doing it and it's like only medium volume, I'm always like, Ian, are you serious? And then I just like, or sometimes I don't even say anything. I just like shoot him a quick glare across the table, and then he's like, oh, okay, so this is what we're doing, right? And then he just like chews so loud. And then what's happened more than once actually is like he makes himself laugh by doing this. Like he cracks himself up from doing this bit, and then because his mouth is open so wide, he like spits food out across the table.
Okay, I don't spit food across the table. Occasionally, I would like choke on my food because I do that.
Yeah. And then some of it comes out.
No, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't do that.
But that's mine. What about yours?
One of my big pet peeves is, okay, this is all to do with making plans with friends.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to call Michael out for this. Because, okay, Michael's great when it comes to plans. He's very tardy. Like, he knows exactly...
He's not tardy.
He is tardy.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go.
Is there something you want to talk
No,
to Michael about?
No.
He's like, most of the time, he's like always on time.
Yeah.
Like, he knows exactly what time we want to do what, and then it's very organized in that manner.
Yeah.
But the thing about planning with Michael that's so hard is not even his indecisiveness, is his pickiness. Would you agree, Mike? I mean, Cody. Is
asking Mike right now as you're listening to this.
Is pickiness too hostile the word?
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's
Michael
accurate.
just has a very select criteria, and if you ask him, he would be like, oh, it's only a few things.
Yeah.
But then you would start like, okay, it always comes up when it's talking to, like, when it's due to, like, finding a restaurant.
Yeah.
Michael only likes a certain amount of, like, restaurants wherever we go.
Yeah.
It has to be, like, somewhat cheap. It has to fit what his appetite is saying. Can't be crowded.
Yeah.
But then he'll be like, I'll go with the flow. I'm down for whatever. And then
Yeah.
you'd start, like, picking restaurants. He's like, yeah, probably no. And
Yeah.
then it's like, you go down the list and you're like, Michael, why don't you choose? He's like,
Yeah.
No, it's fine. I'll go with the flow.
I'm easy.
And then,
I'm easy.
And then this back and forth. All these back and forths.
Yeah.
Right? And Michael's a bit poor on that aspect. So that's why, like, our friendship group, we kind of, work around it, and we end up going to the same establishments.
Yeah, exactly.
Over and over again.
Exactly.
But I'm not complaining. Saves
Yeah.
us a lot of time and money.
Yeah. So we essentially have like two places in the city where we just always know default that we're gonna go to, because we've just established the precedence that like everyone is fine with it and it's okay, and that's like the best that we can do, honestly.
Yeah. It's like Switzerland. It's perfect.
Yeah. Perfect middle ground for everyone. But yeah, Michael, he will like write off restaurants completely based on like a popular dish that they serve. And so there's this one place in Hong Kong called Beef and Liberty that like one of the main things that they serve is like burgers. But that's not the that's not the only thing that they serve. They also have like, like sandwiches or salads or other things. But whenever we're like, oh, Michael, like Beef and Liberty's nearby, or we can also go to another place. He's like, no, I'm not going to Beef and Liberty. And we're always like, why? He's like, because I don't like burgers.
No, now he'd say, I don't like the vibe. And I'm like, what does that mean? Does Beef and Liberty have a vibe? But also, like, he rules out all Japanese food. Essentially, because his mom makes Japanese food. And he's like, why should I pay for this?
Yeah.
Which is a bit restrictive, because there's a lot of Japanese restaurants out there. And then a lot of Chinese restaurants, because he doesn't like noodles. Like, the whole food group of noodles, he doesn't like noodles, so we can't do anything that's noodle related, even if there's other options.
Everyone at Michael for his food pickiness right now.
But going on the topic of planning as well, that idea of like I'm fine with anything that Michael says, or like I'm easy, also kind of like seeps into Cody and Rachel's indecisiveness as well. So like essentially whenever I'm hanging out with them, like I always have to take the charge, because I'd always take the charge, and I'd feel bad if I'm the only one making the decisions.
Yeah.
So then I'd feel it out. I'd be like, oh, where do you guys want to eat?
Yeah.
Like this is an example with Rachel. It would be like, where do you want to eat? And then she'd be like, maybe Causeway, Wan Chai, and Central. So she'll give me three large locations.
It's just like 3 different districts in the city rather than restaurants.
And then I'll finally pick one, and I'll be like, oh, so what kind of food do you want? And she's like, I'm easy, like whatever. So then I pick one cuisine. She's like, oh, actually, I ate that last night. Probably something else. And then we'll just like, it's just so much unnecessary filtering. And then in the end of the day, she'd be like, Okay, actually, you know what? You choose. You choose.
Yeah.
It goes back to 0, and I just end up picking something. She's like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Then sometimes it gets a bit tense, and so we just like sit down at the restaurant and like we're a bit quiet for like 20 seconds, and then we're like, all right, what are we thinking?
That comes with activities as well.
Yeah.
Like it's approaching summertime. It's actually kind of summerish in Hong Kong already. It's really, because it's really subtropical here.
Yeah.
So it gets hot really quickly. The sun's normally out during like May or even April. And I'm really a big fan of outdoor activities, whether that's hiking, kayaking, or going to the beach. But you can clearly see I'm emphasizing on certain activities, such as like going to the beach and kayaking, that Cody isn't too fond of. And he wouldn't explicitly say this. This ties back to his passive aggressiveness. We'd be talking in the group chat, and we'd be like, we're actually formulating somewhat of a plan. We're like, oh yeah, we should actually go kayaking this day at this place at this time. Yeah. And then like an hour before that, Cody would just tell me like, yeah, I don't really want to go kayaking. And I was like, Cody, you son of a bitch, man. You're absolutely ruining our plans right now. I was like, no, it's fine. I'll just go to a coffee shop. I'm like, Cody, that's not the point. We're not going to go kayaking as you go to like a coffee shop on a beach. Yeah. But then Cody likes to play with those lines, which I absolutely find a bit annoying.
Okay, so I'm going to preface this one. That was a bit of an exaggeration.
Oh, exaggeration my ass, Cody. You know it's true.
We were formulating this like beach kayaking day plan like 2 weeks ago. And both me and Michael in our larger friend group just like aren't hugely keen on the beach or kayaking.
Okay, Michael's fine with the beach.
Yeah.
Actually, no, he's not fine with the beach because he's very picky about getting his feet wet and then getting sand on his feet. Oh my God. These kind of things, mate, grinds my gears. But also, Michael was the first person to ever bring up kayaking this summer. He was like, guys, we should actually go kayaking. And I was like, this is a first for Michael. Yeah. But then ties down to his pickiness where he has to only go kayaking if he has his ABC membership.
Yeah. So he only wants to go kayaking in certain places, and the place that we were thinking about was not one of those places. Yeah. And so in this 4-person group chat, it was just Ian and Rachel going back and forth pretty much on like, oh yeah, that time
finally
sounds good.
Agreeing on something.
So Ian and Rachel were totally like on the same wavelength, and then me and Michael had said nothing this entire time, but Ian was like, guys, I can see that you've read the messages because we want to keep up to date.
I know you guys too well. I know you guys are gonna try like do something funny or like something annoying as well. So
and so then it was just me and Michael DMing each other, and we're like, I can pull up the chat. It was like, so what are you thinking? Are you like actually down? And then Michael's like, nah, I'm really not feeling this. And
he would probably do it if you didn't end up trying to like put these incepting these ideas into his brain.
I know. I think like, independently of us talking to each other, like we both would have gone ahead, but because we'd established the fact that like neither of us were super keen on it, like not completely objecting to it, but just like had some reservations against it, we just like mutually reinforced each other and just like we're not helping at all in the group chat.
And on that very day, it rained. Yeah. We didn't get to go to the beach.
We didn't end up going anyway.
And you guys were really happy.
Yeah, that was so funny because we had a group call that morning, and then Rachel was like, Rachel texted, and she was like, guys, like, what are we thinking with this weather? And I was like, oh no, it's okay, maybe we can just like grab lunch. And she's like, I'm so sorry, like it just like doesn't seem like it's working out. And I'm like, oh Rachel, don't worry about it.
You're
at
so
all. That's totally fine.
And then I told Cody to tell Rachel to bring her stuff in case we go kayaking.
Yeah.
And then obviously she decides not to do that. And then on the day we were like, the weather got better.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking maybe there's a chance.
But
then Rachel decided not to bring her stuff. Yeah. And yet she keeps egging me on. She keeps like ticking me off by saying oh, it's actually a really good day. What a shame. I'm like, Rachel, we could have done everything if you prepared. But obviously she didn't choose to do so.
Yeah. Because we ended up getting lunch and drinks instead of going to the beach to kayak. But we went to this beach area to get lunch and drinks. And then I had actually packed my swimsuit just in case.
Michael has, I have as well.
Yeah. And Rachel was the only one who didn't. Who was like the initiator of the plan to begin with.
Exactly.
And then she kept bringing up as we were getting drinks, because you could see the sea. She's like, oh, actually, Ian, the weather's pretty good. Ian, like, it would have been such a good day to go kayaking, and Ian was just
And
like...
she kept saying it unknowingly, like, that I would get, like, a bit ticked off by it.
Yeah. She said it enough times that, like...
She said it so many times.
So much so that it was, like, Ian laughed at first, like, the couple times,
like,
and then
oh,
he had
good
just
one.
been, like, staying quiet and stuff after that. He'd been like, yeah. And then we were like, Rachel, like, stop. Like, Rachel, just, like, don't bring it up anymore.
Oh, my God.
But I guess speaking about our friend group, that kind of ties to one of the pet peeves that I have, which is whenever I'm just, like, in a public place, or, like, on the public transportation system, be it, like, the subway or a bus or something, I get so annoyed at, like, loud and disruptive people when they're just, like, being obnoxious and, like, making a ton of noise. And specifically when it's, like, a bunch of guys, I think, too. And just, like, there's, like, things of, like, entitlement and stuff that it stirs up for me. And I just get so annoyed. And, like,
blast music.
Yeah, exactly. Like, glare at them. And then, especially if I'm with my parents, too, I'm, like, so uncomfortable. But as Ian mentioned earlier, like, we're a bit hypocritical with a lot of our pet peeves because when our friend group assembles, we are so obnoxious. We're, like,
I know.
So loud, so disruptive, so disrespectful sometimes.
Yeah.
But we all independently, like, all get annoyed at people who are like that too. So we always say that like we would hate ourselves if like we were a bystander in that situation. I just remember there was one time this past summer where we were in this like busy subway station and then Ian started playing music on his really loud speaker. I'm calling you out right now.
Whoa.
And then I was like, Ian, man, you just like gotta stop this right now. And he's like, nah, it's vibes. And then it was Lil Pump as well.
Oh my God.
And then I just was like, okay, then I'm not gonna stand with you. So I start running in the subway station, and then Ian and Michael start sprinting and chasing me down. And as they're chasing me down, Ian blasts his Bluetooth speaker up to full volume. So it's just this like scene of absolute chaos where like they're like, Cody, wait up, and I'm just sprinting away from them like through this crowd, and they're blasting like Lil Pump so loud.
But like the difference between us is like, okay, maybe it's just because it's a self-reflection, but I feel like we're actually having fun on the expense of others, whereas like the people we see are like obnoxious just to be obnoxious and like kind of like show offy, which I hate. It's like that arrogance that comes along with it. We're just ignorant. We're not arrogant. That's a good way of putting it, right?
I think so. Back to you.
I don't really have a lot. More of them are like preferences. So I want you to talk about this one. I think this one's a pretty interesting.
Yeah. So we talked about this a bit in our first episode when Ian and I were describing each other and describing ourselves as well. But one of the things that a lot of my friends know about me is I'm just like super conflict averse and just like not confrontational. And so I hate like arguing or disagreement. I just like really dislike that a ton. And so I think because of that, one of my pet peeves is like people who play like devil's advocate just for the sake of like enhancing arguments or like seeing the other side of the picture, or just like being a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian. I think especially when I get really annoyed about it is when I'm just like wanting to talk about something that I'm sad about. And so I'm like, oh, like I'm really bummed about this, or like I got so annoyed at this person because of this, or I like felt hurt because of this. And they're like, and I've had cases where some of my friends, I don't think Ian's had this too much, but some of my friends are like, at all. Sorry. But some of my friends are just like, oh, okay, well, I think you need to like think about it from their position, or like, oh, but like, why didn't you just like tell them that in that moment?
That's so condescending.
I know. And I'm like, okay, well, even if that is like logical and coherent, which like fine if it is, like that's just not what I need in that moment. You know,
especially
I want
when
to
you're
hear like
sensitive and all
exactly. I just want to hear like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened.
I would never do that, Cody.
Rachel, I'm calling you out right now.
I'm only a contrarian on very like trivial matters or superficial like conversations or debates.
Yeah,
especially with our good friend Gareth. So essentially, like the difference between me and Cody is if we hear one of our friends say something like that's outlandish or something that's crazy, Cody would just like look at me and be like, he would open his eyes or be like roll his eyes, like the passive aggressiveness.
Like squint at you or something.
Like I can see through just his look. He's probably saying like, "Oh, what is he saying? This is ridiculous." Yeah. But I myself always like approach it head on.
Yeah.
I have to say something about it.
Yeah.
And it just stirs like this unnecessary argument. So like a good story is we should like I wanted to wait for Gareth to be on the podcast before I say the story because it's such a good story. But it was like we went to China with Gareth. It was me, Gareth, and Michael, and it was on a expedition for HKYP, which is like an award like for young people in Hong Kong. Yeah. And essentially we had this one golden like 30 minutes of free time in our 10-week expedition that we get to relax. So we get to like this nice coffee shop, and then Gareth just says something stupid. Which he probably doesn't think is stupid. And then Michael looks at me, and he probably knew I was going to say something. Yeah. And then I decided to say something. Yeah. And we stir this like very heated debate for the 30 minutes of golden free time that we had. And it just went nowhere. Yeah. Because Gareth and I are both very stubborn. We're both contrarians. And we just argue. It like from the outside view, it just sounds like ridiculous. Yeah. Because nothing we say actually is going to lead to any like progress or any actual end result.
There's no winner.
But we're just arguing for the sake of arguing.
Yeah. It's a deadly match when like
Gareth and I.
Specifically them, because neither of them back down, and it gets to the point where like even if someone factually and like logically wins the argument, like both people are just like upset with each other. Like there's no coming back. And so it just like
that happens so many times. I would say like an actual fact to the matter, and Gareth would always hit me with a no but. I'm like, there is no buts to this.
Yeah. And so then like whenever we just like it just like ends, or we're on the bus or like something similar has happened, we're just like quiet for like 2 minutes, and then just like Ian starts talking to me, and then Gareth starts talking to someone else, and then like
but we kind of warm back up.
Of course. Nothing is like split our friend group up or something. But there was another time when we were taking this big hike as a part of like the same award scheme, where we just like had to do an expedition in Hong Kong, and as we're like hiking for like 6 hours a day, and so we just like get to talking about random stuff. But Gareth brings up this is our freshman year of high school too, but he brings up the fact that there are these like 8-foot tall wolf Siberian like what is it, husky Siberian wolf hybrids or whatever. Hybrids. And so like 8 feet tall or something, and we always have a teacher with us who's like supervising us on these hikes. And like it got to the point where we were like, Gareth, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, I saw it on a YouTube video. Like I can show you when we get back. And
the onion.
The onion. And then like even the teacher, it gets to the point where even the teachers are like, Gareth, come on, Gareth. Like 8 foot tall, really? That's a good laugh. But yeah, we'll have to talk about that when Gareth comes on the podcast. I know you're listening to this, Gareth.
Yeah. Okay, we only have time for one last pet peeve. Yeah. So I want you to talk about that last one.
Oh, perfect.
Because I think it's a really good one, because it's funny how our friendship like group is so tight, considering how many of our personalities clash. There's egos against egos, there's contrarians against contrarians. Yeah. And then all that clashes, yet we're so like tight knit and close with each other.
Beautiful chaos.
Beautiful chaos.
Beautiful chaos.
That is perfect.
So this last pet peeve that I wrote down that Ian's referencing is just like unnecessarily one-upping each other. And when we're in our bigger friend group, I call it a bit more of a vulgar name that we're not going to get into now.
We can say it. Just say it.
I just call it a measuring contest between people. And I think it...
Primarily.
And so primarily, I think it comes out between Ian and Michael. And I guess just the way my personality is, like, if I say something, like, it's not to like make a point necessarily, it's just like to say a fact,
to incite a bit of, as you said, beautiful chaos.
Yeah. But again, like Ian and Michael don't do it like aggressively, or there's not like this weird sense of competition most of the time, but a lot of times they'll just like tend to like one up each other. Or like there's this time, that same lunch with Rachel, where they were talking about that expedition that they did in China, and the fact that like they were hiking up like so high, and because of that the altitude range was a bit risky, and so some people were coming down with altitude sickness, and then Ian was like, but Mike, like, I didn't get altitude sickness, but
I
like,
had to say that first.
Like, I felt fine, but like this one person got really sick, so they had to like be carried on a donkey. And then like, Mike, you were like, you got a bit sick, you got a bit lightheaded, right? And then Michael just had to hit him back with like well, I mean, it wasn't altitude sickness. I was just dealing with the altitude.
The symptoms.
Yeah,
The
I just had one of
symptoms.
the symptoms of altitude sickness, but that doesn't constitute altitude sickness. And then Ian's like, well, I mean, if you have one of the symptoms, like how far can you separate it from the actual thing?
Yeah. This ties back to like in our previous episodes when I called Michael out for crying during graduation. I was like, yeah, I didn't cry myself. I'm very emotionless. But Michael, on the other hand, was tearing up. And then Michael got triggered by that. And he had me like publicly announce that he didn't cry that night as well.
Yeah. So then it's just kind of a mess because then I'm like, I just like, get kind of annoyed. And then Ian knows when I get annoyed and he's like, Cody, what are you annoyed about? And I'm like, I just don't know why you guys keep like doing this. Why you have to make it into like dick measurement contests all the time. And they're like, oh, come on, Cody. Like, wow. And then I just get annoyed at that. And then Rachel like has to break the silence.
It's just bros with big egos.
But yeah, beautiful chaos.
Beautiful chaos.
I'm real proud of myself for coining that term.
Yeah. We can go on like talking about pet peeves for ages.
Yeah.
But we got to cut it short.
Yeah.
So just to finish things off, please follow us on Instagram at PitcherPod. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Yet again, we're going to be giving shout outs to people who rates and reviews us. So please rate and review us.
Yeah.
So far, we have a solid like 3 reviews.
I don't even think we have 3.
2 reviews.
Also, we can only give you a shout out if you give a review, because if you just rate it, we can't actually see the name of the person who did it. So if you're wanting a shout out, make sure to hit review, actually.
Bit passive aggressive there.
No, it's not passive aggressive. It's just
joking,
information.
But also subscribe and check us out on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify as well.
Yeah.
And lastly, please email and DM us at pitcherpod@gmail.com with any thoughts or suggestions regarding like topics that we can be talking about or things you want us to check out.
Yeah.
Maybe for the Culture Corner or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, wait, actually on that note, I forgot to do this. But we just wanted to thank our friend Alex, who last week sent us in a recommendation for a TV show called The Young Offenders. It's like a British like comedy coming of age series from these like 2 young men in Cork in the UK.
Ireland.
Ireland. And Ian and I just watched the trailer and a couple scenes from the pilot before this, and it looked really, really funny. So yeah, we just wanted to thank Alex for sending that in.
Worth checking out.
Yeah. Just like DM us privately or on our Instagram or email if you have any other suggestions about things we should be checking out.
Perfect. We'll just end it at that then. Bye.
Bye.